To this, Health Minister Joe Phaahla claims Nehawu's unprotected strike has led to the loss of lives. Now, government negotiators and public sector unions returned to the negotiating table after the strike turned ugly. Now, with another strike looming on the 20th of March, is law enforcement ready to prevent crime and violence? Well, to discuss this further, I am joined by a forensic investigator at Bizz Tracers, Kelvin Rafadi. A very good morning to you, Mr. Rafadi. Thank you so much for your time. Do you feel that there is a willingness from law enforcement? I mean, understanding also that this is when you deal with strike action, you're dealing with a sensitive matter because you're dealing with people who are fighting for what they feel is just to them. So you don't want to now essentially be forceful in trying to deal with the problem. But also, there are elements of criminality that can seep through in protest action. People who use, those kinds of situations for their own nefarious agendas. Do you feel that, again, as my intro suggests, that law enforcement has that capability of discerning between people who are fighting for what they deserve and those who are just trying to exploit the situation?
Good morning, Morena, and then good morning to your viewers. The law enforcement, they are equipped to deal with such incidents of strikes where even there's a tendency of violence, they can turn out to be some violent element and even criminal elements in that regard. So, but what we have seen with this particular Nehawu strike, I mean, the employees, they've signed the contract and they've taken oath. And I'm sure one of their clauses, it says as essential strikers, they don't have a right to strike. But that we can leave it for the CCMA or the Labour Court to decide. Now, the problem and the worrying factor is we can start by saying condolences to the families that have lost their lives. But unfortunately, in this space, those Nehawu members that were illegally on strike and illegally caused the roadblocks, entry to the hospitals where the patients have died, they are liable for this particular criminal act and they need to be charged with culpable homicide, and they need to be charged with that particular culpable homicide because it's common cause, even at the Labour Court, that their lawyers and the defense of the attorneys of the state, it's a common cause that, of course, they have caused anarchy, and it's an unfortunate incident that they blocked the facility of the hospital. But based on that, it qualifies for them to be charged on culpable homicide.
Mr. Rafadi, one of them then, Morena Mutupi, for example, says, but I didn't actually physically create a blockade. I didn't put rocks or burning tires or whatever in front of the entrance. Mine was just to be at the protest out of my frustration. How then are you able to find who exactly was responsible for the blocking of those entrances?
Look, let's start by saying the complainant in this space, it should be the CEOs of those hospitals. They are the ones that the police, they must go and take a complaint from them, and they are the complainant in this space because of their fiduciary duties. Now, coming into terms of who participated, who didn't participate, we must also thank the media that most of them, they are captured on on their cameras, and some even on CCTV footage. And then there are witnesses that can pinpoint one another, but also the software that were there present at those particular illegal roadblocks in blocking the entrances. They are the first suspects to be charged in the space because they participated. They've ought to know. And besides, they were even in contempt of the court order. But, those are anarchies that they've committed, and they've committed this particular crime, and they need to be charged. And we also urge and ask the police to activate a 72-hour search of those people, and they need to be charged. And, in many strikes, you get people that come camouflaged as if they belong to the union, but they are not from those unions. So let the sub-steward pinpoint who was liable, and they also need to be charged in this particular crime.
I'd like to go back to the readiness, preparedness, ability, capability of law enforcement where strike action is concerned. Of course, this looming national shutdown expected for the 20th of March. Crowd control. Crowd control has proven to be a bit of an issue for law enforcement in strikes gone by before. Will they be able to handle this one? Because if it essentially is executed in a manner that is expected, which is national shutdown, that's a lot of manpower that needs to be, essentially deployed for them to be dealing with this problem. Can they? And can we avoid a violent altercation between ordinary citizens and police?
Look, let's start by saying the subs POPs, which is your public order policing, and also, with some of the JMPDs, the metros, traffic officers, they've got those particular type of division, whereby we haven't seen them being decisive. Like with this Nehawu strike, they were supposed to even use water tankers, not move around the crowd trying to negotiate. That is not just a kidnapping hostage type of a scenario. They were supposed to use force, which is in their dispense, to water tank those people to move out of the crowd. But now when you speak of particular shutdowns, like we've seen with the unrest, where police were caught with their pens down and intelligent, it starts from visible policing in the local police stations, whereby they know the data. By now, like myself, I'm sitting with the data that in the township, some are even targeting certain shops that on this particular day, because of the number of unemployment and the intaking of drugs in our youth, that we're going to break. Like we've seen with, you remember the Toko Didiza in Pretoria, whereby small businesses were broken into, stuff were taken. So the intelligent threat analysis needs to be done as soon as possible, so that they need to know what to expect on the ground, how much force they should put out there, who are they even going to be the instigators prior to those particular, because I bet you there will be anarchy and there will be criminal activities camouflaged in the name of that particular strike. So the police needs to up their game. They need to be ready, but also with the collection data of the threat analysis from the crime intelligence, from your visible policing, they need to up their game in the space.
Mr. Rafadi, we'll leave it there, and we can only but hope that, we're going to be dealing with a situation that's just going to be an ordinary strike, dealt with the kind of necessary force that is required, and that things do not get out of hand. But, you and I speaking here, we've seen this movie before. We've watched this movie before. We've read the script before, and we usually know that these things tend to turn ugly. We can only but hope that they don't. We leave it there with you for this morning, Mr. Rafadi. Thank you so much for joining us. That is Forensic Investigator at Bizz Tracers, Calvin Rafadi.